Let's open a book. The Jester by James Patterson and Andrew Gross. Prologue. The Find. Wearing a brown tweed suit and his customary dark tortoiseshell sunglasses, Dr. Alberto Mazzini pushed through the crowd of loud and agitating reporters blocking the steps of the Musée de l'Histoire in Bois. Can you tell us about the artifact? Is it real? Is that why you're here? A woman pressed, shoving a microphone back CNN in his fist. Have tests been performed on the DNA? Dr. Mazzani was already annoyed. How had the press shackles been alerted? Nothing ever been confirmed about the find. He waved off the reporters and camera operators. This way, Editori, one of the museum aides instructed. Please, come inside. Bit embarrassing. Tiny dark-haired woman in a black trouser suit was waiting for Mazzini. She looked to be in her 40s and appeared almost to curtsy in the presence of this prestigious guest. Thank you for coming. I'm René Lecazzi, the director of the museum. I tried to control the press, but they smell a big story. It is as if we found an atom bomb. If the artifact we found turns out to be authentic, Mazzini replied flatly, you will have found something far greater than a bomb. As the national director of the Vatican Museum, Alberto Mazzini had lent the weight of his authority to every important find of religious significance that had been unearthed over the previous 30 years. The etched tablets presumed to be the work of the disciple, John, dug up in western Syria, the first Vulgate Bible. Both now rested among the Vatican treasures. He had also been involved in the investigation of every hoax, hundreds of them. René Lecazzi led Mazzini along the narrow 15th century hall inlaid with the tiles of heraldic designs. This is what I get for trying to read at pace. Made my digital stage right again. Fantastic. You say the relic was unearthed in a grave? Mazzini asked. A shopping mall, Lecazzi smiled. Even Bois, construction goes on night and day. The bulldozers dug up what must have been a crypt. We would have missed it completely had not a couple of the sarcophagus split open. Miss Lecazzi escorted her important guest into a small elevator and then up to the third floor. The grave belonged to some long-forgotten duke who died in 1099. We did acid and photoluminescence tests immediately. Age-wise, it's right on. At first, we wondered why a precious relic from 1,000 years earlier and half a world away would be buried in an 11th century grave. And what did you find? Mazzini asked. It seems our Duke went to fight in the Crusades. We know he sought valuable relics from the time of Christ. They finally arrived at her office. I advise you to take a breath. You're about to behold something truly extraordinary. The artifact lay on a plain white sheet across an examiner's table, as humble as such a precious thing could be. Mazzini finally removed his glasses. He didn't have to hold his breath. It was completely taken away. My God, this is an atom bomb. Look closely. There's an inscription. The Vatican director bent over it. Yes, it could be. Had all the right markings. The inscription was in Latin. He squinted close to read Acre, Galilee. He examined the artifact from end to end. The age fitted the markings. It also corresponded to descriptions in the Bible. Yet how had it come to be buried here? All of this, it does not really prove anything. That's true, of course, René Lecazzi shrugged. But, Doctor, I am from here. My father is from the valley, my father's father and his. There have been stories here for hundreds of years, long before this grave tumbled open. Stories every schoolchild in Blois was raised on. That this holy relic was here in Blois 1,000 years ago. Mazzini had seen 100 purported relics like this, but the tremendous power of this one gripped and unnerved him. A reverent force gave him the urge to kneel on the stone floor. Finally, that's what he did, as if he were in the presence of Jesus Christ. I waited until your arrival to place a call to Cardinal Perrault in Paris, said Lecazzi. Forget Perrault. Mazzini looked up, moistening his dry lips. We are going to call the Pope. Alberto Mazzini couldn't take his eyes off the incredible artifact on the plain white sheet. This was more than just the crowning moment of his career. It was a miracle. There's just one more thing, said Miss Lecazzi. What? Mazzini mumbled. What one more thing? The local law. He always said a precious relic was here, though never that it belonged to a duke, but to a man of far humbler origins. What sort of lone-born man will come into a prize? A priest? Perhaps a thief? No. René looked as his brown eyes widened. Actually, a jester. Chapter 1. Villers-du-Perret, a village in southern France, 1096. The church bells were ringing, loud, quickening peals, echoing through the village in the middle of the day. Only twice before had I heard the bells sounded at midday in the 4 years since I had come to live here. Once when word reached us that the king's son had died, and the second when a raiding party from our lord's rival Indignay swept through the place during the wars, leaving 8 dead and burning almost every house to the ground. What was going on? I rushed to the upstairs window of the inn I looked after with my wife, Sophie. People were running into the square, still carrying their work tools. What's going on? Who needs help? They shouted. Then Arnaud, who farmed by the river, galloped over the bridge aboard his mule, pulling back towards the road. They're coming! They're almost here! From the east I heard a loud chorus of voices, seemingly raised as one. I squinted through the trees and felt my jaw drop. Jesus, I'm dreaming, I said to myself. A peddler with a cart was considered an event here. I blinked at the sight not once, but twice. Jammed along the narrow road into the village, stretching far as the eye could see, as was the greatest multitude I had ever seen. Sophie, come here, quick, now! I yelled. My wife of 3 years hurried to the window, her golden hair pinned up for the workday under a white cap. Mother of God, Hugh! It's an army, I muttered it, barely able to believe my eyes. The army of the crusade.